Okay, in this video we are going to be looking at list comprehension in Python. So let's get right into the code. So let's say I have this string here. It's called my string and it says hello there, a basic string, right? So typically when we'd want to iterate through this list, if we wanted to append the letters to, or typically if we wanted to iterate through the list, or if we wanted to write a simple function in which we can append the individual letters to an empty list, we would use a for loop. So let's look at what that looked like. So if I had my list, so I wanted to create an empty list, add my 4 letters in my string, okay? In my string, what I would do is I would go my list dot append, and I would append the letters, right? That's our standard way. And then when I would pull my list, I would see all the individual letters from our string. So that's kind of the conventional way in which we could iterate through a list and append them to an empty string. Let's clear this out of the way. But instead, in this case, we can actually use list comprehension. And so what list comprehension is, it's a way of creating a flattened for loop. So it helps reduce the overall syntax that is involved in kind of creating these small functions. So let me show you what that would look like. So if we look at my list again, what we would do instead of creating an empty list, we would use this. So letter for letter in my list, okay? And we would run it. And if I check my list, I can see I have the HOLL, so all the individual letters in there right now. So we can see that my list looks exactly the same as we had before if we were to use this for loop up here. Instead, we can condense it into this one line. So let me show you a couple more examples of how this works. Clear this out of the way. So let's say I had another list. We're going to call it my list 2. And it's going to be, let's use numbers instead. So num for num in range 0 to 11. Okay, if we run this, and if I pull up my list 2, I will now see 0 to 10. In this list. Now, again, same thing using list comprehension. So we're able to break it down and flatten it into one single line. We can also run functions within it as well. So if I had, let's say, my list 2, okay, we'll go num and we'll square it. Okay, so we'll do to the asterisk and the 2 for num in range 0 to 11. Do that, and we run my list 2 again. We now have the same numbers, but we have them squared. Nice and easy. We can also do things like check for just the even numbers. So if I did my list, and I went, let's do it different. Let's create a new list. Let's do my list 3. We'll do this way. So for x in range 0 to 11. So same thing we did before. In this case, we'd use our if function within. So if x mod 2 is equal to 0, so if the remainder is 0, so that's how we check for even numbers. And we run this, and I pull up my list 3, I will see only the even numbers within it. Let's clear this up. Show you one other kind of cool thing we can do within list comprehension. So let's say, let's do this. So we're gonna create a list. We'll call it Fahrenheit. So for Fahrenheit. And we're going to set it to equal, actually, I take that back. Let's do this. We're going to create a function. We'll call it Celsius. That's all right, Celsius? I think it's like that. So yeah, equals, and we'll put some degrees, some Celsius in there, 10, 20, 30, and then 40, and then 50.5, or 50.4, sorry. Okay, I have my Celsius, and I want to create a for loop, and we're going to convert it all to Fahrenheit. So my Fahrenheit is going to be an empty list. And I'll go for temp in Celsius, okay? We are gonna go Fahrenheit dot append, and we'll type in the formula here. An extra bracket, so it's gonna be 2, so go and so the formula is 9 divided by 5 times the temperature, okay? Plus 32. That's our formula for, make sure I got enough brackets. And that. So I actually want to do one more there and one more here. Did I got them all right now? Did I have too many? So I have my formula here, and I run that. And then when I pull up my Fahrenheit, I will see all my Celsius converted to Fahrenheit. Now, if I want to do list comprehension here, what I would do is I would take my Celsius again, right? So we have our list up here. And what I would do is I'd basically put it all into one line instead. So let's create it. So we'll do 9 divided by 5 times the temp plus 32, okay? For space for temp in, so what are we doing here? Celsius. Okay, run that and we pull up Fahrenheit. We will see we have the exact same numbers as before.